Imagine you are in supply chain and you've got a team in marketing. Marketing is generating demand for the organization. You got to make sure you have sufficient supply to be able to convert something or produce something that can actually meet that demand. But what happens when they don't share that particular demand forecast with you? Or what happens if they have no visibility of what your supply base can and cannot do, or what your operational capacity is to actually produce something? And so what happens is a lot of times when we hear the term interoperability, most people go to that from a technological standpoint. But I often say this: interoperability is a social problem. We have built organizational structures that by nature don't like to talk to one another. So effective internal data sharing means this: one, I have data you want, I have data you need, and more importantly, I have data you trust. And so I call them the data cool kids and the data exiles. In other words, you can have great data, but you're unwilling to share it. You're an exile. You might have terrible data, but you're willing to give it to everyone. You're a data exile. A data cool kid is this data in a good format and structure that I can use. We talk about John Maxwell as a great leader and communicator, and one of the things he says is that the burden is always on the speaker, not on the listener. So when I come to you for data, how often do you give me things that I have to jump through hoops to translate, transform, to understand before I can use it? A good data sharing partner is one who understands the data asset I need, how I'm going to utilize that data asset, and tries to package it in a manner that makes it easier and more straightforward for me to actually start to execute relative to that data. So that's what we mean by advanced and effective internal data sharing, because we'll always say, I'll share data with a customer, or I might share data with a supplier. But the reality is this: if your internal data sharing is poor, your external data sharing is going to be a fallacy.